We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Show 74. We got Mr. Chad Gracey standing by, and we're starting off with our one and only guest, Mr. Bruce Vilanch. What up?
Yellow.
Yellow.
Welcome.
I figure this is her last gasp for the year. I mean, it's alarming, the resemblance between me and Donna Kelsey. It's the red glasses, the blonde hair, and the chubbiness.
Uh-huh.
But, after last night's disgrace, I have a feeling she'll be laying low.
Yeah, that was a trouncing.
They'd ride that. They wouldn't break up because I'd ride that joke for a while. But now all the cards are on the table.
Yeah, we'll see if Tay sticks around after that.
They booed her in New Orleans. Oh my God!
They did. Yeah, that was amazing. So, wow.
Well, I think there were more Eagles people there, and just generally,
yeah. The Eagles will boo anybody. The Eagles booed Santa Claus, for God's sake. So And then, of course, they proceeded to rip up their town. Philadelphia got trashed again.
Of course. Well, that's that happens all the time. They don't win enough for it to really be trashed. But,
it makes no sense. Like, we won. Let's trash the city.
Right?
Hysterical. I gotta wonder. I mean, do they do that if they lose too, or is this just?
They do. Yeah. Yes. It goes both ways.
I think it's a thing. Then they all go have scrapple.
Yes.
That strange mystery meat.
Yes. I'm from Pennsylvania, a little town called York, and so I know scrapple well. I've never eaten a scrapple. My mom has. I'm like, I don't want it. No, thank you.
I think I went there once. Like some other things, I only ate once.
Yeah,
hash is good. College. Hash is a mystery meat. That's pretty good, though.
Oh, corned beef and hash. Yeah.
Yeah, corned beef.
That's great. Yeah, sure.
Bruce, though, you if I got this right, you were born in New York, but you grew up in New Jersey, so you're a fellow Jersey boy.
I was adopted at 4 days old and taken to Paterson, New Jersey, which was the Silk City at the time, and then it fell on harder times after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody admits me from Paterson, but I wear it proudly.
Was Joe Clark your teacher?
On me high school. That was East Side. That was Morgan Freeman with a baseball bat in the movie. That was my
Joe Clark.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Was he actually your principal?
No, actually, he was a few years after I left. But he when they tried to fire him, he dug up a list of notable East Side alumni and began writing letters to us. Like Allen Ginsberg was another one.
Oh, wow.
Asking to support him in his thing. And of course I said, I don't know you. And I don't know. I only know about you from the media. So and what would they care what I say anyway? So, you gotta fry a bigger fish than this one. So he went away with a baseball bat.
Was Paterson like a harder area like that while you were growing up in it? Or
it was on the verge. It was on the verge. It had been a big industrial town. It was actually called the Silk City because it was where the textile industry was headquartered. And when I was a little kid, the Passaic River, which flows through Paterson, turned colors when they would empty all the dye from the textile thing. It would be like, suddenly there would be colors all. And so our joke was any fish you pulled out of the Pacific River was a rainbow trout. They looked like pride stripes, on the side.
Oh my!
So, but it was a WASP town that was also Jewish and Italian and Puerto Rican and Black, and everybody was kind of getting along. And then finally, the things were just not good enough for anybody, and it sank into stuff. And now it's like a Muslim stronghold. It's like Dearborn, Michigan.
Really?
A lot of Muslims moved in there and took over a lot of the other. I think the mayor, is Muslim. But so it's been through. It's a fascinating, story. And Jim Jarmusch went and made a movie there that said nothing about any of that. I don't know why. It was Paterson, and Adam Driver played a guy named Paterson, and he was a bus driver in Paterson and drove through town, which they shot in Toronto.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. Why would they shoot it there?
Right. Paterson was on. Did you ever see that show Live PD? Like maybe 2 years ago, Paterson was one of the towns that was on it.
It has had a little revival because of Alexander Hamilton founded it, and after the musical became the biggest thing in the world, people began getting interested in everything involving Hamilton, and they started showing up. And the reason Hamilton founded the town was the Passaic Falls, which were a great source of power for electricity and for everything generally. And so that is now a national park. The Passaic Falls are now a national park, thanks to a lot of people who stayed in Paterson.
Sure.
Who I grew up with, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote the show and campaigned for it.
Oh, wow. I used to just go to Paterson as a North Jersey kid to get all the good drugs. They had the better stuff there.
That was what it was very famous for in later years. Where did you grow up?
East Rutherford. So a couple towns over.
Before there was a football, before it became the football capital of, well, sort of.
Yeah. You got MetLife Stadium and all that jazz
MetLife
there.
Stadium and all of those, a lot of stadiums, and then Secaucus.
Yeah. Good old Secaucus. And you say it properly.
Secaucus. Pig farming was big in Secaucus. And to add to that, there were toxic chemicals being made. So we used to have a joke about.
Is that where your sense of humor came from?
Secaucus.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is that where your... Is that where your sense of humor came from, you think, Bruce, from all those toxic chemicals you were?
No doubt. Those are the only ones I was ingesting. So it could be. I don't know. I think it's, I have a theory that when you're a kid who feels like it's on the outside, I was heavy and I was not athletic and I had a vivid life of the mind. And I wasn't interested in comic books, and superheroes, and any of that kind of stuff that kids are traditionally interested in. So you live in your own world, and you begin creating things, and you make yourself laugh a lot. You discover that if you can make other people laugh, it gives you a head start when they come after you.
True.
So
well,
it became a good life lesson.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, this is, we're going to have a lot of fun here, but this is a serious question. So you are famously known as like somebody who's high into LGBTQ rights and all that stuff, and you're famously out yourself as a gay man. Were you able to be out in the beginning of your career, or did you come out later in life?
I'm so old that I predate coming out. I mean, that by the time that happened after Stonewall, which was you should pardon the expression, in '69. So I was never in. I mean, I was always kind of bisexual. I always had girlfriends, and I always thought I wanted to get married and have kids and all that kind of stuff, and at the same time be able to cruise the Greyhound station, for sailors, because the yin and the yang. But after a while, I realized that when I kept saying, "Oh, gay is a choice," I said, "Yeah, it's a choice to be authentic or not." And I chose to be authentic. I mean, as much as I loved women and had no problem having sex with women, I was not interested in it. I didn't go after them. I soon realized what I really liked. So I was, but it was never a secret with me. And because I was in the business I was in, show business encourages eccentricity and flamboyance and all of that. The real guys, the real heroes are the insurance claim adjusters and neurosurgeons and people like that who are in it, or anybody who works in a corporate environment where you have to have a significant other to show up with at the picnic. Those were the people the guys who really were brave if they came out, if they were their true selves. And then when the coming out thing happened, of course, it changed everything, because once we refused to be invisible, we began to get some basic human rights that we were being denied. So, and that led into, the AIDS movement, which was because nobody was going to do anything. So we had to convert the political movement into a life-saving AIDS movement. And I was there raising money by doing a lot of benefits, because that's what we do in show business. We do benefits. As I'm sure you're aware, benefits are us.
Benefits.
Well, that's kind of cool that you were always just authentic to yourself. You didn't need to make an excuse, and it kind of really didn't seem to kind of be an issue for you. And then, like you said, once the thing was to come out, then you maybe brought your voice up about it, but you were always authentically, being you. That's cool. Because I just know a lot of people from back then, kind of did live the closeted life. Like I was even thinking like maybe Elton John or something, who was, he was out, he was gay back then, but just wasn't out. So I didn't know if that was like a thing, you had to do it.
He was gay, but he announced he was bisexual, and his record sales immediately plummeted.
Really?
So his label said, "Get married right away." So he went to Australia and got married, and he married a very lovely lesbian lady, German, and in Australia, and she was rather butch. They're a fun couple.
Yes.
And then finally, years after all that, the hysteria had passed. He finally did come out, but at the time it was, what it was he said he was bisexual, and back then, unlike now, all of pop music was on AM radio stations,
right?
And and the record company would send your record all over the country to the radio stations. Well, radio stations in places like Louisville, Kentucky, the guy from the church would call up the guy who owned the station and say, "You can't play this faggot Elton John. You got to take him off." And so he disappeared from AM radio almost overnight.
Wow.
Overnight. And this was around the time of Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. That was it just went away. And so they had to do triage on his career. And it's quite a great story. I don't know if that was in Rocket Man. Rocket Man seemed to be about his inner journey. And with substance abuse and a few other things. Elton's loaded up with stories. What can I tell you?
Oh, I'm sure, man.
Fabulous guy, and he's a genuine character, and
Now I think, Bruce, I might have one of the most important questions you've ever been asked, if I could say that as an interviewer.
Go right ahead. Lay it on me.
Who do you think had better sex, Elton John and his butch wife, or Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley? Go.
Well, I think the open question is, did either of them ever have sex?
Right. True.
I think the sex in Lisa Marie and Michael's marriage was the melding of the Elvis catalog with the Jackson catalog to create a mega catalog, which I believe was probably the whole reason for the marriage. I mean, they were both sort of kind of lost souls. And I really do think it was a merger made in an accountant's office.
Oh yeah, then you throw in the Beatles too, that he stole from Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah, that's right. He had the Beatles catalog.
Paul McCartney told him to get into music publishing, and he bought the Beatles catalog.
That's right. Chad, weren't you playing the MTV Awards show where him and Lisa Marie kissed?
We didn't play, but we were nominated for VMAs that year, and
oh, that's what. Okay,
it was strange. Yeah. It was strange to watch live in the audience. Like, this is just weird. Just because it was so awkward, it was awkward.
Yeah, it was. I remember seeing it. It was.
Yeah, they were like, people thought this wasn't real, and then they went to do like a real like sexual embracing kiss, and it was like the most awkward kiss you've ever seen before. You're like, no, now you just proved it. Yeah. That was funny. Bruce, though, getting back to your beginning of your life. So grew up in Paterson, born in New York, grew up in Paterson. How do we start getting into show business? What was your first gig? What made you? I kind of know what got you into there, because you were talking.
I made faces in the mirror, and my parents, who were brilliant, enabled me. They said, "Well, he's happy doing that. Let's put him out there and see how far he gets." So I was a child actor. I was never a child star, or we'd be having this conversation in rehab. Because I used to say they don't do well, age well, but now I look at Ariana Grande and some other people who've done spectacularly well. So it's not a blanket assessment anymore. But I aged out of it because I had a deep voice and I was heavy and I looked older. So I was up against actors who were authentic, and I certainly wasn't. So I started writing about it, and I evinced a talent for that. And I was in college. I went to college to The Ohio State University, where I was a major in arts and theater and journalism, because my parents said, "Well, get a job in a newspaper. They'll never die." So no. So I got a job at the Chicago Tribune after I graduated. I went to Chicago, and about the first person I met was Bette Midler, who was appearing in a nightclub there. A friend of mine was Bud Friedman owned the club in New York called the Improv, and he was managing her, and he asked me to go see her. So I went to see her, and I loved her, and I wrote a story about her. And she called me and said, "That was a funny story. You're a very funny writer." And I said, "Well, you're funny. You should talk more on stage." And she said, "You got any lines?" And that was the beginning of a relationship, which has just notched its 50th year.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We're still at it. I'm still Midlerizing left and right. So
for sure,
it's a lot of fun. So that was what got me into it. And then I was at the paper. I was interviewing a lot of people, a lot of show business people who had come through Chicago, and I was known as her writer, and so I started writing for a lot of other people, for Richard Pryor and George Carlin and Lily Tomlin and some really great people, and a lot of I began writing for a lot of TV, for Sonny and Cher. And Cher without Sonny, Sonny without Cher. Sonny and Cher, we don't like each other, but we owe a lot of money so together. I mean, I did them all. And 5 years after 5 years of that, Bette had a dresser whose brother started the Manhattan Transfer. And I mean, a lot of people don't know who they were. And I mean, they have a great fan base, but they're not like an act for a young act. They were a jazz act now, but they were a big nostalgia act at the time. And they got a summer television series replacing Cher. So I came out here in the summer of '75 to write the transfer show. And I just, as Beth said, you had your bags packed when I met you. So I never looked back. I mean, I went, I've been out here since, and it was the end of variety television, and I caught the tail end of it.
Wow. Yeah, because I heard you wrote for the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Oh, yes. Well, that's my book. I have a book that drops March 4th on Amazon. It's on Amazon now, pre-ordering. And March 4th, it comes to a bookstore near you, if there is still a bookstore near you. And it's about how I wrote the worst TV shows of all time and some other things, and lived. It's called.
I saw in. I'm looking at Wikipedia.
The Brady Bunch Variety Hours there. The Star Wars Holiday Special.
I was just going to bring that up. I remember watching that as a kid. I loved it, but
that's how it happened.
Universally panned.
I did podcasts, and people your age said, "How did these shows happen? Who said yes?"
Right.
They paid their debt to society.
Right.
They really are. It's a series of turds and punch bowls. I mean, they really are.
It was wild. I loved it when I was a kid.
If you watch them with the same kind of chemical additives with which we made them, then you'll have a damn good time.
Right. I remember watching it as a kid. I liked it, but I went back recently and watched it. I'm like, what is this?
That happens a lot.
It's insane. I mean, that's why it's the best story of them all, because it was that it happened at all is insanity.
So, Bruce, you wrote a lot for stand-up comedians. Have you ever been up on stage yourself and gone up there? And
I have. I call myself a sit-down comic because I'm not a club comic. I don't come up there and talk about somebody who I banged last night or any of that kind of stuff. And I don't do crowd work. If I was as hot as Matt Rife and cute as Matt Rife, I do crowd work because I get laid. But I don't. So. But I tell stories, basically. I tell stories about my career. I started doing it late, after 40, about when I had a trove of stories about working in Hollywood and writing Oscar shows. I've written 25 of them, and various people I've worked with and amusing incidents therein. And I also was like I would tackle the news of the day, but my rule is they have to come to see me. I mean, if I'm seeing a benefit, it's one thing. But if I'm actually going to go into a room and try for people to come, I don't want to be comic number 43, and here's our headliner, or any of that crap. That's not my game. I do a show with Judy Gold, who's brilliant. It's called Big and Tall because I am big and she is tall. And we're both two gay Jews. So it seems to cover several demographics. But we have a good time. But Judy is a real stand-up comic. She and does crowd work. I mean, she's brilliant, and it's just not, that's not what I do. So there's a contrast there.
Sure. And yeah, I guess you want people there kind of knowing your brand right off the bat, so you don't have to win them over. Yeah, they know what they're getting into.
Exactly. If they know. I mean, I've been around enough. It would happen with Hollywood Squares. I was on, for 6 years, every night of the week, and so people get to know who you are. You become kind of famous.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not Brad Pitt famous, but it's famous. I mean, I'll go through an airport doing selfies, and somebody will walk by and say, "Who's that?"
You're right. I know him.
I'm Donna Kelsey, and that's what they.
I know that guy. Have you ever tried to put anything on Travis Kelce's mom's tab? Like, hey, this is Mrs. Kelsey here. Round on me.
It's a good thought. No, I haven't. I haven't taken. I would have never taken advantage of this.
Sure.
On the other hand, she could be signing Bruce Vilanch. You never know.
That's true. You should call up your credit card.
Aware of this, so
call up your credit card company. There's some charges on here I don't recognize. It might be Travis Kelce's mom.
I don't understand. I don't go to the pleasure chest. What is that?
Right. But you're there every week, sir. Anywho, so Bruce, what is your feeling on last night? Did you watch the Super Bowl, by the way?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay. It was for the commercials, of course.
Absolutely. What else?
What I remember is flying mustache, flying eyebrows, and somebody who could have been Ben Affleck. I'm not sure.
Yes,
the flying like Ben Affleck after Ozempic and I don't know what else.
You're right.
He looked weird to me.
But the flying eyebrows was the best, though.
Billy and Crystal and Meg Ryan were funny. And, I mean, there were some funny things. Now it's the game. Yeah, it was a rout. So I wasn't particularly interested. And then the halftime was fascinating because it was a kind of a tacit acknowledgement that more than 50% of the league is black. I think the actual figure is 53% of the players in the league are black. So they decided to give them an all hip hop show that Kendrick Lamar turned into a political statement. Yeah. And if you are into that world, it was quite brilliant. I mean,
sure.
I didn't know that what Serena was doing was a particular kind of dance move that has significance in that culture. But I found out after the show last night. Yeah. For me, I've never been into hip hop, so it was nothing that I was terribly interested in, but I had to admire the choreography and it shot great. It looked fabulous. And, it's like invading Libya to stage one of those things.
Sure.
And get it up on its feet in the time as a split second thing. And it wasn't particularly joyous, which is what I would always assume a Super Bowl halftime. It's party. And it didn't seem much a party as it was a cultural statement.
Sure.
So, but that's pretty brave.
100%. I didn't realize at the time, but supposedly when they were all dancing and they were red, white, and blue, and they made the American flag, and everybody that was making up the American flag was black, and then they were all on each other's backs. It was basically saying America was built on black people's backs. Yeah. Which that's great imagery and stuff like that. I just didn't catch it at the time. He probably should have put a banner.
Sam Jackson kind of tipped it off, right? On your uncle.
I couldn't hear. Yeah. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but
I didn't hear what he was saying as he was. He kept popping in and out. And I didn't know. But yeah, there was a lot of that kind of imagery, which I think if you tuned into that, you were tuned into it. A lot of people were not, obviously.
And then some dude got tackled. He jumped on stage holding a Palestinian flag, and then they tackled him.
That's weird. I don't know how it was. It actually on? I mean, did it make the broadcast? I was watching it on Tubi. So
yeah, the tackle didn't make the broadcast, but I think you saw him run by with the flag once, and then somebody in the crowd was filming the tackling, which was pretty funny.
Okay, well that'll do.
Was it a good takedown?
It was a good takedown, and it was like 3 people who took him down, and then like 6 dragged him away. So yeah, it was cool to watch. Fun to watch.
Were any of them Kansas City Chiefs?
They were all in black. They look Secret Service.
Them guys.
Them dudes. The dudes you don't want to mess with. You look up, you're like, okay. So you were right in for the Oscars when what was it? Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg were hosting.
Well, they never hosted together. They actually all 3 hosted separately. They were taking comic relief. That was
That's
the thing we did. Yeah, I did 15 of those, and those were Billy, Robin, and Whoopi. But Billy did 8 Oscar shows. Whoopi did 4, and Robin actually kept it down. But before I was involved, he was part of a group called Friends of Oscar, which means everybody got to come up and do 10 minutes. I mean, not material, but they got to be a host for a minute. So. And he said that was enough. He didn't want to have to keep coming back because part of that show is you have to keep firing. You keep coming back. You make 10 or 11 appearances in the course of the evening, and you just have to keep coming back. And he didn't want to. I don't think Robin wanted to do that. He likes to be out there. Like, he'll be out there for an hour doing that, but to have to come jumping back in, I don't think.
Right, keep leaving and come back.
Just didn't strike him as he was on the show. I did the show a few times where he presented things. He presented an award to Chuck Lee, who was a fabulous animator who had animated a lot of the characters that Robin did voices for. So,
oh wow,
yeah, that was lovely when he did that. I love that. One thing about the Oscars, they forget that the Oscars is the only award show that's voted on by people who actually make movies. As
the Academy Award.
Yes.
Or what is it?
Critics or people like at the mall, which is where they get the People's Choice winners, or the Golden Globes or any of those things. I mean, this is people who actually make movies. And it's wonderful when one discipline recognizes another one because you realize that it's a collaborative effort. So for an actor to come out and give an award to an animator, they're 2 totally different disciplines, but it's pretty great. I think when the thing I always tried to get more of that into the show so people would realize what it really was. It wasn't just gowns and gay people.
Right. Did you find it? Were you walking any tightropes, like with writing jokes or anything? Were you trying to stay away from certain things or a certain tone?
Well, you don't want to be mean spirited because people are there because they may lose an award, and they'll be unhappy enough. And the host has got to be somebody who they know, who's as big as they are, who can make fun of them without really wounding anybody. So that was always a minefield. Nothing like today, where you can wound an entire culture
like that,
and be canceled, and all of that. So there is, I think, there's reasonable pushback on all of that now, but I understand where it all came from.
Sure.
But yeah, it's always been difficult. And the other thing about the Oscar show, I've told every host that I've worked with, is that you want to front load the material because for every winner there are 4 losers. So as the evening wears on, the room is filling up with losers. They're not really paying attention. They are, now that you can see them texting, they're firing people. They're texting, firing.
Right.
I lost, you asshole.
Right.
So, and then, or they leave, in a dudgeon, and there's some anonymous seat filler who got her dressed is sitting there trying to look glamorous, and because she's not allowed to touch Chris Hemsworth, who's sitting next to her. So it's she's not paying attention either. She's hoping she can put her hand on Chris Hemsworth's knee at least.
Well, let me ask you this, Bruce, because I know that you've won a couple Emmys, I believe 2 consecutive, and then all that. Did you get to go on stage to grab these Emmys, or were they?
No, the first time, they were both for Oscar shows, and they were Billy Crystal shows, and Billy was one of the writers, of course. But the first year, he had scheduled a family vacation in Hawaii, and his kids were not going to let him duck out of that. So he didn't think we were going to win, I have a feeling. So he went, and we won. And the great part of that is that there were like 5 other writers, and we all came up and we all got to say something, because the director of the Emmy show was not going to cut off the writers, some of whom were writing on the Emmy show.
Oh, wow.
So we all got to say, I was the last one, and I said, I'm only sorry I didn't have to sleep around to get this award.
Was that a lie, though, Bruce? Was that a lie?
That was live. That was because I didn't know, what was going to happen. I thought maybe Billy would make a surprise return or something. The second year, Billy was short. We were nominated. The second year in a row, Billy was short to get and we won. And he got to give the speech for all of us.
Rock on, man.
That's cool.
It all worked out beautifully.
Is that life-changing after that, or is it are there cool Emmy Award parties you go to, and now that you're a winner, it's like
there's the governor's ball, but and there were everybody has a party, so it's not, but life-changing, no, it's not. I mean, Oscar is life-changing, I think, because there are so few of them awarded every year. I mean, the Emmys keep expanding categories. The Grammys have like 88 categories now, so it's. I mean, people say, how is it that Beyonce has won 13 Grammys and Frank Sinatra only had 7? Well,
right.
Because there were no categories that would cover the things that Beyonce has won for. Frank Sinatra never wrote a hip-hop song.
Yeah.
She won a Grammy for writing a hip-hop song. So, I mean, those categories. So it's a ridiculous argument. But, you see people saying, well, where are their talents commensurate? It has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with that specific category. But,
put.
People are looking for something, they're looking for something that they can knock somebody else on, because we live in such a negative culture. It's
why is that? It just seems like if somebody's down, it's so easy to jump on and be negative towards them, and that seems to be
just been building up for years. I mean, snarky is funny, but I think the internet gave people who really should not have a voice.
Yeah,
they get a chance to go on and express their unfiltered opinion, and I think it brings the whole culture down. The tone that they use brings everything down. It's constantly. I mean, I go on Facebook and it'll say 10 worst performances by somebody put together a clip reel of the. Now, I mean, that's my book, which is a joke, but and comes from the heart. But this is like capriciously, let's dump on people.
No, and they say things that they would never say to their face.
I mean, when Harvard, the Hasty Pudding people, they give the award for the worst actress of the year, there's a certain kind of joyousness to it. They say, a lot of the big stars, when they get these awards, they own it. They say, yeah, I sucked in that. It was crap, and I bought a house, something like that. If they own it, then the sting goes out of it. But a lot of the, when these little hits on what I call keyboard warfare, the sting never goes out of it. It's just endless. And I think that's where it comes from. God, I'm going on.
That's the point of a podcast. You're doing well, man. You're making our job easy.
Oh, good.
We're part of the people on the internet that shouldn't have a voice but do. No, God.
I would say the rule for online people should be, if you can't say it to their face, don't say it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it. Really should.
I mean, come on. Bruce, I had a question. You've obviously written jokes for a lot of great comedians. Looking on Wikipedia here, but I see here Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. Did you write jokes for his on-stage banter, or what was that about?
I did two things. The what got me together with him. No, that wasn't it. There's an Aerosmith ride at Walt Disney World, or there was,
right?
And they had a little film piece that they made that they showed on TV screens to people waiting online. Which, at the theme parks, you can stand there 45 minutes. So they had various entertainments to take your mind off the fact that you're waiting and you're in the Florida heat. And that I did that. We shot an Aerosmith kind of a video with them where they were talking to the crowd and all of that. And then I think there was an award show. They were presenting something, probably the Grammys, and I can't remember what it was, but I wrote something for him to do on the Grammys.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I think that's how I got the other gig, actually, the theme park gig. And then we've been friendly. I mean, it's not like I don't call him up and go, what's up? I mean, we run into each other, and I like him. And I think he's terrific. And every time I see him, I scream, "Dream on!"
Yeah, baby. I heard you wrote "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing," the Aerosmith song from the big movie.
No, I missed that one.
Well, maybe I dreamt this or something, but did you actually write a song with Bette Midler or for Bette Midler, or am I?
I've written some lyrics, and with Bette, it's all been kind of parody lyrics. Mark Shaman and Bette and I wrote something for the last Johnny Carson show. We did a parody of "You Made Me Love You," called
Oh,
"You
wow.
Made Me Watch You," and it was about his 25 years of being on TV, because he kind of broke her on television. I mean, she got known nationally. I think she was on the show 34 times in the first couple of years of her career.
Wow.
So he really loved her, and a very misbegotten gesture took her to Las Vegas as his opening act. And a lot of people watch Carson on television, but the people who would pay money to see him in Vegas are not the people who would pay money to see Bette back in those days. So they were kind of nonplussed. His opening act traditionally had been Phyllis McGuire of the McGuire Sisters, who was a very, very elegant, jazzy Vegas act, beat it down and all that. And much more the style of his audience. But he said, "Don't worry, they don't know anything. They don't know anything." It started when we got there, and they were putting up the marquee, and it said Johnny Carson, and underneath it, Bette Midler. Bette
Midler. Wow.
She got out, and she was climbing up the ladder, saying, "No, that's wrong." Take charge.
Yeah. I guess you have to be, especially when you have that sort of stature that she has, being in the business so long.
Well, that she hadn't been, and I mean, in Vegas, Vegas, before she was a movie star, Vegas was always dicey because the crowd was so middle class and so not tuned into her. I mean, I remember we got into a cab in Vegas, and we were coming out of the hotel, and her name is on the marquee, and he's going, "Have you seen her? Have you seen her act?" And he said, "No. What about this? What a mouth on her! Oh, God, she's filthy, and she's kind of in the back seat."
How funny!
Because
wow.
in Vegas, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's not, there was a different kind of Vegas. There was Red Fox, who really was filthy, but he was farther down the strip, and you expected that. That was before he was Fred Sanford. I wrote for him after he was Fred Sanford, because he would play big dates out of Vegas. And he couldn't come on, and say, "You got to wash your ass." He couldn't. And so he would come out, and he would do like 40 minutes, which we wrote, not me alone. And then he would say, "Okay, that was Red Fox. Now I'm going to bring out Lola Falana, and she's going to sing for you. And when I come back, it's going to be Blue Fox." And like the people who couldn't take him had gotten their money's worth.
Yeah.
They'd seen Fred Sanford, and Lola, had shaken it up for them, and now they could go, and they could, they'd gotten their money's worth. Because if they stayed, they would drop dead in their seat.
They would get offended.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was from Party Records. You're probably too young to know about Party Records, but that's what there was. People would buy comedy albums were filthy. And you play them at parties, and people would scream and laugh. And of course, it would always like loosen up the girl, right?
Yeah. That's key. You make a girl laugh, dude. And that's the key.
And laughing at dirty stuff. And
for sure.
Your act one is taken care of for you.
Act one, yeah. And maybe act three for me. I can kind of go pretty quick once I get in that.
You're jumping second, guy.
Yeah. Hey, now. But Bruce, so you did something cool in the beginning of 2000s. You were on Broadway in Hair.
Hairspray, not Hair.
Hairspray, and Turnblad or whatever.
Good. No, I did Hairspray. I played the mother. I shaved my beard of many years because I could not talk them into a woman with a beard. They said that's a little too John Waters.
Yeah.
They'll take it. It's a man playing a woman, but not a man playing a woman with a hormone problem.
Got it. Yeah.
So I shaved the beard and dove into the role. And that was great. I did it for 2 years, on the road a year, and then on Broadway for a year. But
so this is full on.
Interesting.
Well, I was being dramatic. Hair. Spray. Come on. Yeah. I was pausing for dramatic effect.
That act one ends with a nude scene. So, which the actors could decide every night if they wanted to be naked or not. They were all under like a tent. And the tent had holes in it. And if you wanted to, you'd pop up naked for the end of the song. It was revolutionary.
I just saw an off-Broadway play of Hair, and they did do that. My brother was actually in it, and I got to see his genitals for the first time in about 20 years. I haven't seen him since we were younger. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Right.
But anyway, so you were doing the full-on thing, Bruce? You were up there singing, dancing, acting?
Singing, dancing. Well, in Hairspray, you really only have to sing as well as Harvey Firestein, because he created the role on stage and he's the template for it. It was written for him. So everything was written so they could be sung like this because you're timeless to me. So I thought, okay, I can do that. But I did do it in a different key, but it's not like a big singing role. Like he also did La Cage aux Folles, which is a big singing role, but I don't know that I'm that big a singer that I could have done that. But it certainly was big enough for Hairspray, yeah. And dancing. It's not like doing Cheetah Rivera. I mean, it's it's the dancing. The dancing is commensurate with the size of the lady in the fat suit.
Was it nerve-wracking though? I mean, for somebody who's kind of performed a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, a lot of like on-camera work, like this in front of a live audience, is this something that?
No, it was something I'd been doing it since I was a kid. I was acting, and then I just kind of stopped because I wasn't getting cast. But so I always was kind of at home on the stage, and that show is, even if you don't feel like doing it, you show up, and the moment the curtains start, the rise of the audience is nuts because they're there to party.
Yeah,
they're having a good time, and so you get drawn into it. Even 8 times a week, it doesn't get old because you realize you're really entertaining people. It's joyous, and it's for all of the John Waterness of it. I mean, John says it's a very subversive show, and he's right, because there is an interracial relationship at the center of it. And the fat girl gets the hot guy, and the parents are played by 2 guys, one of whom is playing a woman, not a drag queen, but a woman. So John said it's a very subversive, and Jack O'Brien, who directed, said it's a very subversive show. The audience leaves with a whole different perspective on the world.
Yeah.
One of those things.
For sure.
Cool.
I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. That's why they've never had a woman playing Edna. It was done originally in the film by Divine, and while there have been many women who could do it, the idea that John Waters wanted to protect was that the audience accepts this couple, and as we see now, in wherever this move towards casting everybody authentically, which means nobody has a chance to pretend or to create art. Which is why to begin with, it's fucking ridiculous, Yeah. You have to find a guy with one leg to play any part with one leg, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you almost don't need actors. Then you need real life people. You don't need somebody who could act.
It comes from a place of actors who felt marginalized because of who they were. Sure. I understand that, but at the same time, it's anti-art. It's the death of art, basically.
Right. Like David Carradine playing, I believe he played like a Japanese dude in Kung Fu or something.
Yeah, somebody egregious.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be egregious like that, but you don't have to be autistic to, play an autistic role or something,
Hello, Dustin Hoffman. Great man.
Did a good job.
Dude, did a great job, man. I feel like I could have done a pretty decent job at that.
So the Dana Carvey story. I think I'm looking at you thinking you'd be very special.
Isn't that special? Yes. Love me. Yeah.
You could jump into that role. I'm telling you.
I'm going to. We made a joke last night for the audience. I said, fuck the Super Bowl. Go to Chad and mine's OnlyFans and watch the Super Hole. We're doing very gay acts on there. and so we got a lot of subscriptions last night to our OnlyFans.
Our OnlyFans blew up.
What's that?
Backfield in motion.
Exactly. I was the quarterback, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
Oh, come on.
You were the tight end when you started.
That's right. Isn't that special?
You became the wide receiver sooner or later.
You gotta go. You gotta
sounds like a George Carlin routine. Wait a minute.
You gotta give a little to take some or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah. We tried the old, I tried to get him to 68 me where he blew me and I owed him one, but he wouldn't do it. He 69 all the way. Anywho, yeah, we're going off the rails here.
Different directions here.
So here's where I'm gonna bring it back to. Is LA still as cool as it was back when you first got out there? Have you seen changes? Talk to me about the digs where we're at.
It began changing. I've been here since '75. It began changing in '84 with the Olympics because people from all over the world came and realized they liked it, and they wanted once their governments fell, they wanted to get out, and so suddenly there was so many Iranians came after the fall of the Shah that there's a part of town which is now called Tarangelis.
Tarangelis.
So that was the beginning, and there was a boom as a result. And of course, the usual things happened. Traffic expanded, and there were a lot more people. And then the homeless crisis had happened, so there were a lot of people on the street because the weather's nice, and because it's generally a town where filled with creative people who feel like this. I'm lucky. This could happen to me. Of that. And then it became a global finance center. And so with all the development now, of course, the traffic is insane.
Yeah.
And a lot of the quality of life is different. But now, of course, with the fires, this was unprecedented. I was evacuated overnight, and I came back singing Anatevka at the top of my lungs. Now I have a go-to bag in case the Cossacks invade.
Look at you.
Gotta go back.
But I mean, so that's now that there's a pall over the whole place because people are figuring out what to do. And now it's going to rain this week, so no one knows if things will be sliding into other things.
Yeah, it's supposed to be some major rain coming.
Oh,
so
boy.
It became, and people, when I first came out here, they said, "Oh, it used to have a wonderful small town feel," and you can still see pockets of that around.
Okay.
And but that has kind of gone away as it's become an international megalopolis.
How about the people in general? Has it become like a more like a fake town? Like, are tourists coming there and kind of using people for connections? Like, was it more of like a community in '70s?
It was always fake. I mean, it was full of people who came to make things up. To make fake Rome and fake Paris and all that. So it's always been that. And show business has its own bizarre rules about what's real and what isn't real. So there's always been that. But at the same time, it's there's everything here. You just have to find it. I mean, it does have a rich intellectual life. You just have to ferret it out. It's not something that slaps you on the street the way it does in New York. First of all, you're driving almost everywhere. So you they have a subway system, which is bizarre in itself. And is now kind of like a homeless shelter on wheels.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's awful, but that's the truth. So it always was. People would come here to be part of the American dream. They'd come here to be rich and famous. And those are shallow goals. They didn't come here to cure cancer. They didn't come here to make a political statement like San Francisco or New York, which is a city of 8 million finalists. They're all there to be a number one at the top of the heap.
Yeah,
kind of a company town, the way Detroit and Washington are company towns. Everybody, or at least on the west side of LA, is in the same sort of business. But I find it invigorating. A lot of people just say, "Oh, I can't take it." Then I say, "Go, more parking."
See ya. Right.
Less traffic.
So born on the East Coast, live on the West Coast. Is that safe to say that you identify now as a West Coastian, or are you still East Coast at heart?
I guess. I think it was Barry Goldwater. No, probably later. Some Republican who said God picked up the United States in Maine and Florida and shook everything that wasn't loose, fell into California.
Okay. There you go.
Which it's one way of looking at it, I think.
Sure. So
Florida's another story.
Yeah, that's where you go to retire. And
well, that's my other favorite is Sarah Silverman went down to the first in 2016 to campaign against Trump and for Hillary, and she came back and she said all these people said, "I'll vote for him if you'll take your parents back."
Said that to who?
Sarah Silverman. Anybody. I mean, anybody who came down from Hollywood. If you'll take your parents back, because everybody's.
Oh, I got it. That's fun. I love Sarah Silverman. Yeah. Well, trust me. I have ADHD, so sometimes a little glimpse will come in here. Once the full thing and then okay. I got it. Yes, sir.
I get it.
Well, we do this here, Bruce. So the way we do it is we always leave our audience wanting more from our guests, because we're going to have you on in the future, because I got a ton more to ask you. But let's let the audience know when the book is coming out, where they can get it now. I know you have pre-orders and stuff and all your social media and all that good jazz.
Right. The book is on pre-order now at Amazon, and it will drop March 4th in bookstores near you, for those of you who have bookstores near you. It's called It Seemed Like a Bad Idea at the Time.
Nice.
But it's a good idea to buy it. It's funny. You'll have a good time laughing, and it will actually explain how things happen, because the basic idea of how things happen hasn't changed very much, and things that should have been nipped in the bud on day one. I'm writing about 50 years later. I can't believe it.
Just like bell bottoms come back, that's coming back.
Bell bottoms. Bette used to say. She had a pair of bell bottoms that she loved. She still has them. They're standing by themselves in the corner.
Nice.
Bruce, are you famously sober now?
No, I was never famously alcoholic. I embroidered my drug history because it was fun. But it came, especially talking about Star Wars on many podcasts. Let's say Carrie Fisher and I were snorting the Sweet and Low in the cafeteria.
Yeah, baby.
From it, except it wasn't Sweet and Low. But I was never doing anything drastic. I was never addicted. I did all the things you do. If you remember the 70s, you weren't there.
Yeah.
I did everything you were supposed to do once, and I avoided a few things.
So safe to say,
now Bruce, I read things like Vilanch, who admits to copious drug use.
Oh, God.
So we just broke it on this show. Bruce Vilanch and Princess Leia were doing blow and had sex numerous times backstage in Star Wars. You heard it here, folks, on The Gracious 2. No. Come on.
It could be. I was not one of her gay boyfriends.
Well, you were bi at the time, so
yes, I was. But Carrie had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, man. Is she still alive? Because if so, I'll let her fry.
She passed. I forget how many. She was 60 a few years ago. She had a lot of medical complications, but she had a heart attack.
Did you say she died at 60?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so early, man.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
John, you didn't know she passed?
I think I might have, because I was, I think I might have.
Some people would not know, because she was in a few Star Wars movies after she died.
Right, I know. That's what I was going to say.
They used her likeness. They CGI'd and deep faked and stuff.
That's amazing.
Keep Leia, whatever, Commander General Leia Orgasma, whatever her name is.
Organa. Yeah, that seems to be a prelude to what's coming with, just taking an actor's face and being able to put him in any movie.
No, it's scary.
Good.
It's going to be scary, yeah.
Good point, Bruce. So are you going to sell your likeness before Travis Kelce Moms sells hers? This way there's no competing roles?
I'll meet her at the finishing line, I guess.
Bruce, thanks again for coming on, man. You were really fun.
A Monday show. So excited.
Yeah,
we
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
And it's Bruce Vilanch on Facebook. And what are you on Instagram, Bruce?
I'm the real Bruce Vilanch, but I never post. So, but
okay.
If you want to communicate, then wegotbruce.com.
Boom.
Is run by a fan of mine, and I look every morning to see what I'm up to because he knows more than I do.
Cool. There you
Rock on. We'll be going there. Folks, that is Bruce Vilanch. We want to again thank him for coming on. He was an awesome guest. Chad, did you have some fun there?
I did. Yeah, it was great.
Rock.
I really wanted to ask that Steven Tyler question. I'm like, because I saw all these notable comedians he wrote jokes for. I'm like, Steven Tyler, like, what's this? So that's interesting.
I didn't even see that. So when you brought up, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know you wrote for Steven Tyler. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was also writing he was asked to write for Barbara Streisand, and she offered him it's a quote ridiculously low wage, so he didn't do it.
Sounds about right. I've heard some stories about her.
Yeah.
Let's bring on Bobby real quick. We're not going to do a Bobby's World or anything because this was just a bonus episode for Mr. Vilanch to come on and say hello to the audience. I hope the audience had fun out there. I didn't even see if we got any.
We got a couple of people tuning in saying, hey, like Bill Hines said, today is a Tuesday.
Yeah. Everybody's
I made a video and put it on Instagram saying we're doing a special episode today, but hey, I guess some people didn't see it. It's all right.
Yeah, and not only that, we did it like on a month, like we sent it out early. We probably should have let them know earlier. Yeah, that's the beauty of the live show. It's you get all the live stuff out, and they could replay it whenever the fuck they want.
We're gonna keep people on their toes. I told them. I said moving forward, we're gonna be doing, some different shows here.
Yes, sir. Get ready. We got some fun guests coming up. Tomorrow is Theodore Gibbons, musician. He was doing some stuff, working on a show, Person of Interest. They put him in a role, but I believe it was like grip and stuff like that on there, but he was working on the set somehow. Cool. Worked on a couple different shows, but cool dude. Known him for a long time. Great sense of humor.
Nice.
Does like sound therapy, like healing sound therapy and stuff like that. So cool.
Dude, I just noticed you got the Gracious 2 shirt on there, buddy. I got to get one of these. Got to get one.
Oh, all right.
I figure Bruce Vilanch wear this bad boy for him.
There you go.
But yeah, that was fun, man. He's cool. There's so many. That was like just like the introduction to him. But there's so many cool stories that guy has that we got to really get into and find out about. In Hollywood in '75. He's seen some shit.
Yeah. Well, he said if you remember the 70s, you weren't doing it right. So he doesn't remember.
But that Exhibit A, I mean, he was blowing lines with Carrie Fisher. How cool is that?
Exactly.
Like pretty dope.
Exhibit A.
Yeah. So we got a lot more to talk to Bruce about. He's fun and he's a character. And go get that book. There's a lot of inside information in there. So that'll be fun for you guys to read and check that out. Bobby, you want to say anything before we shut you off?
No, I want to thank the audience for showing up and actually, they're still in here and some people are still watching.
Yes, cool. Words of wisdom from Bobby, right there, folks. The only Bobby. Let me go black here first. Oh wait, duh. Let me go here first. Hello.
Hey.
Chad, anything for the audience before we go?
Hey, well, as always, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow at regular time.
Yep. And don't forget to check out our OnlyFans.
Exactly.